Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Real Talk. Today, I am so happy to bring this guest on. To give a little quick story, I ran into his book pre-COVID, late February, and I ran into this book, and it really changed my world of video, connecting with people, rehumanizing, and it's so strange of what the world we got into. Right after I got this book, we went into a full lockdown virtual world. And I really would like to introduce our new guest today, who's really going to tell us all about how to rehumanize your business virtually, Ethan Beute. Ethan, how are you?
I'm awesome. Thanks so much for having me, Rob, and thanks for that nice intro.
Oh, you are. I mean, as that quick little intro I wanted to show is like you really gave me the confidence of the direction I was going in right when we got into this thing. As everybody doesn't know, this book, Rehumanize Your Business. We'll do a little more props in there. This is what really solidified my direction when I ran into your book at LAX in late February. And look at this. 8 months later, we are actually having a conversation, and I reached out and I'm like, oh my God, let me talk to Ethan. And you were so open to having a discussion with me. And I'm so happy today to have you on.
Yeah, we live in an amazing world where we can do things like publish our ideas in a wide variety of formats, whether it's like a video and audio-based podcast show, whether it's in a traditional book as they've been published for, I don't know, decades, centuries, whatever. And in this ability, this is something I think a lot of people don't do enough of is do what you did with, and I do it myself all the time. I reach out to podcast hosts. I reach out to people who've written books because we can connect with almost anyone in the world who is a relative expert on any topic we're interested in. So, when someone like you reaches out and says, I read your book and it was helpful to me, like, why wouldn't I double down on someone who sees the world similarly, who appreciates the way that I think about things and communicate them? Like, I want to know more people like that. And it's not to gratify myself, but it's to advance the ideas in the community around it. So it's a privilege to be here with you. And I appreciate you reaching out in the first place.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Ethan. And I'd like to also say, have a happy birthday today. It's his birthday and you come on your podcast. Look what we got there.
So good. Love it.
I got to take a little photo of this. You got a little birthday podcast. I feel very fortunate that you take your time out of our schedule, and yeah, so awesome. This is so. Look at this.
That's fun. That's pro. Matt's rock. That is a
little surprise for you, and I really appreciate. I would say now you're getting to the 25-year-old mark. I know we're all getting aging there. I know that's funny, but anyways, thanks again for taking your time today. Yeah. And I really wanted to start from the beginning before we get into all the thick and things of really, how did you get here? Your little history and how you got where you are today.
Yeah, so I came up in local broadcast television, and it's just something I did an internship while I was at college at the University of Michigan at a TV at the Fox station in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and ended up having 4 jobs in local broadcast TV. So running marketing teams inside like your local ABC, Fox, NBC station. And so I moved out here to Colorado Springs to take the marketing director job at the NBC station here, where I met the guy that was running internet sales at the time, happened to also be the co-founder of BombBomb, the software company that I've worked at now for 9 years full time, which is nuts. And I also met his co-founder, Connor McCluskey. Mm-hmm. And so I knew the guys socially. I knew they were working on it. And I guess this would be a pro tip for anyone, no matter where you are in your career. As soon as you start to feel like you're missing some combination of fun, interesting, and challenging, like I feel like our work should be all 3 of those, and maybe at different levels at different times. But if you're not some combination of having fun, being challenged, and I like, I'm a curious person. I want some intellectual satisfaction. Like I want things to be interesting as well. And so that just television wasn't doing it for me anymore. I didn't wholly believe in the product, really. It's highly cyclical. It was getting a little bit boring and it wasn't super fun. And so I started doing project work with a wide variety of companies, like people I had met over the years. I was working on an MBA at the time, so I met a couple people through that program here in Colorado Springs that I was doing some project work for, to figure out, like, what do I like doing? What will people pay me for? What skills are transferable? I'd only been in one business in different roles, but similar roles for like a dozen years. And so I started doing project work with the guys at BombBomb, among other people. And so at some point they're like, hey, we're going to hire you as soon as we can. Because it's a very, very small company at the time. I think I was the sixth hire. We maybe had 100 or 200 customers at the time. And so at some point I got the call. I had to leave some, compensation on the table. But, you make some of these choices because you just know they're the right choices. I mean, money isn't everything. And the health plan was kind of garbage, but my wife was supportive of it. And so I jumped and joined the BombBomb team and was the only marketing guy for about 3 years or so before we hired Steve, my co-author on the book, and our chief marketing officer, and started building the team out and stuff. And so basically what led up to this moment, which was driven by the book, was I just kind of decided to round up all of my best learnings and teachings, things that I had taught in webinars, stories customers had told me, things I had experienced myself, and organize some of my favorite thoughts and most valuable tips together with Steve into Rehumanize Your Business. And that sent me on this journey that led us to this moment today. So, and the last thing here, I just knew that publishing a mainstream business book with a prolific nonfiction business book publisher like Wiley would be a way to reach people like you, Rob, people who weren't seeing our digital ads, people that weren't searching things that would wind up as posts, as visits to blog posts on our website. We only have anyone listening to this. You only have your own reach. You only have your own sphere of influence. And there are ways to activate people inside your sphere of influence or your database or your network, whatever language you use around that. You can activate people to carry your message and your philosophy farther. But I knew that a book could do that. And so it was just doubling down on where we were a few minutes ago. The idea that you reached out to me and said, hey man, I was at LAX, saw the title of your book. It was interesting to me. It spoke to some of the things I was thinking about at the time. I picked it up. I read it. It was awesome. So I got more copies for more of my team members. Like, perfect. That's exactly, this conversation is exactly why I went to the trouble of figuring out how to write and publish a book.
And as I say, well done on the book. If people listening out there, the book is very comprehensive, but it's the virtual skill of 101 of how to go virtual and a video from where we were, where we are today, and all the tools and all the chapters, which we'll get into some of the things I want to discuss.
Cool.
It's been, and you know what? It was you made it so exciting and so easy to read and engage. It wasn't, I know probably you had to edit it down a little bit too, probably because of the publisher. But at the end of the day, I know that happens a lot, but because it's your luck. It's everything you are. You wrote all your notes probably. Because I remember we discussed, it was a blog or it was notes and everything you had together. All your seminars you put together that you created this book, right?
Yeah. So it's like the spark for it was a blog post I wrote when I hit my 6-year full-time anniversary. I was just so excited about how many people were adapting and adopting their business and their communication to this more personal and human approach of using simple recorded videos to kind of be there in person when you can't be there in person. And so, of course, we're all on, just for clarity for people, we're all on Zoom calls all the time or whatever platform we're using, Teams, Google Meet, whatever. What we're primarily, I think, going to be talking about, and what the book is really about, it's the what, why, who, when, and how of something we call relationships through video, which is, instead of going to your keyboard all day, every day to type up Slack messages and LinkedIn messages and emails, etc., a lot of those are great opportunities to go to the record button instead, to be more clear, to be more personal, and be more human. And in that way, rehumanize your communication and rehumanize your business.
That's it right there. You humanize your business. So I want to get back to the point, to take a step back right now before we get into this. Let's talk about the way of communication, of reach out. I mean, as I said, we're all salespeople. So how to reach out and touch someone from customers, customer experience. Customer experience is very big because it used to be customer service. Now it's full experience. But before, start with that. In the book, it started also too, is how effective is email today and how it was in the past to what is today?
Yeah, well, I think anyone listening would
Yeah.
nod their head at, some of the headlines we've seen, some of the claims that are like email is dead and these types of things. And it's the problem isn't necessarily all email's fault. Email's just a tool. And what's happened is so many people have ruined it for the rest of us, right? Like if everyone using the email channel or any channel for that matter was a good actor, right? And by actor, I don't mean like acting and putting on a thing. I just mean like if you were acting and behaving in a positive, constructive way and not spamming people, not sending to people who probably you shouldn't be. And we all know this. When you click send on an email to 5,000 people or 50,000 people, the person clicking go or setting up that send knows maybe all these people probably shouldn't get this email, but we want to hit our number. So we're just going to do it anyway, right? Like
Yep.
so all of us are in our inbox. Some people aren't very good at writing emails. Oftentimes we're misunderstood or misled, even when we're in a proper email exchanges. So much of what's wonderful about the sales process, about the buying process, frankly, sometimes it is fun to buy. A good salesperson can create an amazing buying experience. And we look forward to those emails and phone calls and text messages and in-person meetings and Zoom meetings and all this stuff. And so so bad actors have ruined email at some level, spam, malicious stuff, phishing, acting as if, but even in good communication, we strip out ourselves when we go to the keyboard. We get intellectual, we conceive of all the right words in the right order. We gather what we would easily be able to just say if we were on the phone, but we're not, we're an email. And so we get intellectual, we get into our heads, we try to type it out, but we're not necessarily as good at writing emails as we think we are. People don't have the patience to read emails as much as we think they do. Our meaning doesn't come through as well as we want sometimes. And so we've all been in these back and forth email or text message exchanges where all you're doing is working to clarity on the original message, is you're not even advancing the idea, you're just working to clarity. And so in so many of these cases, what's missing is tone of voice, pace, body language, facial expression, all the things that we as human beings for millennia have trained ourselves to be able to read off people subconsciously, instantly, and know what people mean by the way that they say it. And so if we can just replace some of what would otherwise be faceless typed out text with some simple personal videos, we would save ourselves a lot of time. We would feel more connected to one another, and we would get a lot more yeses.
I cannot agree more. I mean, you articulated that very well. I mean, hitting on the email things. Yeah, we're not all professional writers, script using words or sales language or terminology that can build persuasion. That's all comes into that. We're not all that. Some people are very good just talking on the phone, but particularly email, it doesn't come across. It's like dot, dot, dot. They don't really get it. But on the phone, they're just flow. It's smooth. It's like as you said, a car salesman. It just flows, and that's so everybody has a different app. And at the end of the day, I always say is doesn't matter what position we're all salespeople at the end of the day. We're all trying to sell something. Either we're internal organizations selling our teams on something or externally on the customers. Everything's in the sales aspect. But one thing I would come back to that you brought up in the book was it's the new way. I mean, now since we're virtual world, so now it's like, what is the new way to communicate, connect, and convert? Which really what you went through in the book, which really for me, it connected with me. You connected to 100%. I'm like, wow, that's right. And I wanted to express that to my team. So can you explain a little bit about that? Communicate, connect, and convert.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as we try to warm people up to this idea, like here's one thing I'll say, very, very high level. And I would be surprised if you did not agree with me, Rob. I know that this will be a better world to live and work in when more people are sending lightweight, casual conversational videos. We'll have a lot less confusion. We'll feel like we know more people. We get to be as the person recording and sending the video, you get to be your whole self, like on the job, instead of being constrained in some of these channels that don't fully express who you are as a person, that leave some of your unique qualities on the table because it's going in a channel that doesn't permit those qualities to go through. And so I'm convinced that this will be a better world to live and work in when twice as many people are doing it as are doing it today. And when 10 times more people are doing it a few years from now than are doing it today. And it's not just about growing the BombBomb customer base. Like this is a true thing. Like I know that we will be better when we get to be ourselves and have people know who we are. And there's trust is built faster, et cetera. So in trying to communicate it, you obviously, like anything, you're trying to talk about the value and benefit of it. And so I wound up with these 3 C's: communicate, connect, and convert. Over a long period of time. A lot of what you'll read in the book is a refined way to express ideas that we all know are intuitively true, that I've heard in one form or another, that I've tried in email copy or on the website over time. And so what you get with this communicate, connect, and convert is probably the most concise way to capture all of the benefits of breaking some of your habits and establishing a new one of starting to use this style of video. And I'll just say it again. This is about communicating more clearly. This is about your whole self. Again, it's about all the rich nonverbal communication that we automatically and universally communicate as the sayer, the expressor of a message, and as the recipient of the message. As fellow human beings and as social creatures, we code, and as the sender, we code our language with all this nonverbal communication, micro expressions, facial expressions, etc. Like if I'm saying something out of concern, you're going to know if we're doing it this way live over a video call, or if I say it through a recorded video message, you're going to know that I'm saying this out of concern, because I'm going to say it differently than if I'm saying it out of excitement or promise, right? So it's clearer communication. The next one is connection, human connection. When you communicate this way, you're building more human connection. There's so much science and research behind the idea that the simple exposure of our whole selves in a natural setting allows people to feel closer to us. And I don't know what your experience has been, Rob, because you really got turned on to this after we had the ability to go to conferences and trade shows and all these other things. But because I've been sending so many messages for so long, I've sent more than 10,000 of this style of video message. And it's not because I'm just hammering out hundreds a day. It's because I've been doing a little bit for a long period of time. I go to conferences and trade shows, or I have over the years, and people greet me like they know me, even though I've never met them. And I hear it all the time from our customers. People feel like they know me before they meet me, or people send replies that they get to their emails that are like, "Oh my gosh, it was great to see you again." So there's a psychological proximity, this psychological nearness, this emotional connection that's built even in the absence of physical proximity, us being together in the same room at the same time, through this style of community. So clearer communication, human connection, and then the one that really turns on a lot of people, because it brings those two together into, should I invest in this, my time and my energy, and to the degree that I'm going to maybe subscribe to software to help me, higher conversion. And I just want to double down, and then I'll give it back to you. I want to double down on what you said. All of us are in sales. So if you're listening to this and you're kind of half in sales, half not in sales, or you're in another team or another department, we leaned a lot on Dan Pink's To Sell Is Human. And that's why he endorsed the book. We are all in sales. And by that, it simply means we all need to connect, influence, and persuade. We need to move people from one idea or position to another. And so we need yeses. And so when I say conversion, I don't just mean the ultimate sales and marketing conversion, even though people that do this report higher conversion rates from lead to closed transaction. They report higher conversion rates. And more clicks through their emails and higher email reply rates and these types of things. But when I say conversion in this context, I mean yes. Getting someone to say, yes, I will reply to this email. Yes, I will return your phone call. Yes, I'll click through and fill out this form. Yes, I will make that personal introduction for you. All these yeses that we need, in addition to, yes, I'll sign the contract, or yes, I'll swipe my credit card. We need yes all day, every day, from all the people around us. And you also did a great job of mentioning team members, in some cases, family members, friends, people in our supply chain that aren't necessarily customers. We're not buying from them. They're not buying from us, but they're an important part of our business ecosystem. Like, we're communicating with all these people every day in all of these channels. And so many of those touch points would benefit from a lightweight, casual conversational video, because it produces clear communication, human connection, and higher conversion.
Just dropped the mic right there. Yeah, I mean, he nailed it. Hit the nail on the head right there. And I can say is, no matter what we're in, at the end of the day, it's like, as personal, let's take it back to personal. We're all very thoughtful, at someone's birthday, we write them a card. Everything used to be much more handwritten.
You cue the graphics out for the podcast.
Yeah, exactly. So there it is. Yeah, so now it's that happy birthday, like, it's very thoughtful, right? A thank you card, someone writes up, because for me, when I actually receive a card these days, a thoughtful card, someone took the time to actually write it and send it to me, this means a lot to me because, as we know, everything's digital. It's very easy. And so that thoughtfulness and the way to communicate over that, the tools, communicating and connecting, converting, it's over thoughtfulness and just being human. We all care. We're all equal. And I care about you. And putting and video as well is people get vulnerable, right? People are vulnerable. But that vulnerability builds connection because we all make mistakes. We all stutter sometimes. We forget the words. We talk too fast because we're excited. These are all the things that happen, but it connects people together, connects, and that nonverbal behavior of hand signals, smiles, you nailed it. It's so powerful across a video than an email or even a phone call. At least on a phone call, you hear tonality. And that's one thing, a tonality. I even say a tonality and the nonverbal behavior on video is still extremely important. Even if you're a Zoom call, conference, is people to, because you got to raise up the bar. Because when we get on video, you're a professional in this. I've done a lot of practice myself. We're a little louder. We have more enthusiasm. But a lot of people get behind it. It's like, they're just their voices come down, they become calm. And that's one thing is to say, hey, be yourself. Be your excited self. Don't get afraid because there's a camera sticking. That's one thing that happens. And it's hard for people to get comfortable in that and taking them out of their shell. So for me, this book, when I ran into it, I had insecurities. We're all insecure. I'm like, I don't want to get off. I'm like, should I start pushing my team? And then this solidified and gave me confidence that I was thinking the right direction and showing me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 steps of what to do, how to practice, put in the reps, and things that will let me be more confident in the approach I take using video to connect with people, outsiders.
Yeah, so much good stuff there. I'll reply to a couple things in particular, and I'll go back to where you started, which is, it is my birthday. And I did get a bunch of Facebook messages and LinkedIn messages, and you can immediately tell the ones that are different from the others. You can tell the ones where someone just clicked the button on LinkedIn to communicate the birthday message because it just says happy birthday, right? And that's cool. It's better than not clicking the button. It's nice.
Yeah.
But on the far other end, I had several customers and friends reach out with personal videos, and they're not overproduced. They're not long. They're not dramatic. Typically they have something that is related to what they know about me and the nature of our relationship. And that's kind of special. Right. And so what's special about it is exactly what you said about when someone sends you a handwritten note, which is you now know that someone took a minute out of their day and thought specifically about you. And so I think about the style of video is kind of the modern day handwritten note. And in that way, and it's doing two things. One, it's putting your personality on the page in the case of the handwritten note, right? You and I, Rob, could write the exact same note to Matt, let's say, and it would look a lot different. And it would feel different reading it because it looks different. And you can get a sense of our personality by our handwriting. My handwriting's not great. I don't know how good yours.
I'm a chicken scratch guy.
Right. But if you can basically read it, whatever. Anyway, the other thing is I made this just for you. And so I just want to, a lot of people, one of the pushbacks we get on video, and then I'll get to the other pushback, which is the one you mentioned, is this kind of discomfort piece. A lot of the pushback is, I don't know. I don't know if I have time for this. And I want to say, I don't know that you don't have time not to do it. Like, if you have people in your business and your life that matter to you, you need to sometimes do the unscalable. You need to sometimes take 45 seconds out of your day to say whatever the message is. The sub message is, I see you, I hear you, I understand you, I appreciate you, you matter to me. And so there are different things that people are communicating when they click the send the birthday note versus when they take 35 seconds or even 15 seconds to send a happy birthday video. And it's not about exactly what they say or exactly how they said it or how well lit they were. And I have sun coming in my window now. So it's like flaring out. So I'll move it. But it's not about any, whoops.
It's all good.
It's not about any of that stuff. It's about how you make people feel and that gift of your time and attention.
Correct.
So when you give people that time and attention, it can't be faked in video. Like it says, 1 minute, 27-second video. And so we need to look for these spots to let people know that they matter to us. The other thing I'll say here, and then I'll give it back to you, is, you mentioned who we are on video versus who we are in real life. And, ideally you would be in a place where there's no discrepancy between the two, that you are sincerely excited about the value and opportunity that you represent. But some people aren't necessarily big personalities. And what I would say is you don't have to be. If you're a mellow, understated person, maybe you don't host a YouTube channel. Maybe you don't host a video podcast, an audio podcast, but this opportunity to use video messages to communicate to the people that you're already communicating with today. You don't have to be this dynamic personality. All you need to be at the other end is relatable. And what I would say is, if someone has said yes to you, and by the way, if you are gainfully employed or someone has hired you to do something, then you are relatable. If people call you on the phone or send you emails, you're probably relatable because they're reaching out to engage with you. And so dynamic or relatable is appropriate for this style. You don't need to carry, you're not hosting the Super Bowl halftime show. You're just communicating in a more personal, human way to one person or 5 people or 12 people that maybe are involved in this project or involved in this deal or whatever the case may be. And so if you're not a big personality and you feel like, I'm not a video person, air quote, that might be true in the case of hosting a homepage video or a show, but it's not true in this case because all you're looking to do is communicate more effectively than you can with a keyboard.
I agree there. It's one thing I tell my team. It's like, don't be afraid. I mean, I understand some people have different personalities, different confidence levels, the way they, different things, but they will walk into a meeting and have, be personal, be professional. I'm like, well, the same way you walk into a meeting, you could just walk onto the camera and converse the same way, so it's not that, don't get afraid, be the same person, because that person connected with you because you see them all the time, but now just walk in because you look the same in person than you do on the camera.
That's another funny thing too. We think we can hide. It's so interesting. Like, we hide because we think we're going to protect ourselves. And what we're doing is protecting ourselves from fear of judgment and rejection. It's a deeply human thing. But the fact of the matter is you're overthinking it. People will be happy to see you and hear you, and no one's going to judge you nearly as harshly as you judge yourself. And specifically for the salespeople listening and watching, this idea that you're going to hide, it's so interesting. So much of the funnel, let's say, generically speaking, so much of what's going on there is oriented toward an in-person or a face-to-face meeting, right? And so you want to get in person. You want to be invited in or welcomed into the office when it's safe to do so. You want to get on a Zoom call. So all these activities, these emails, these LinkedIn messages, this direct mail, all of it is oriented toward getting the replies and responses to schedule the meeting, because that's where we connect, communicate, and convert most effectively. And so why are we hiding who we are and hiding behind this cloak of digital anonymity on this journey that leads up to an in-person meeting? Why not get face-to-face earlier and more often?
That's it. I mean, for all the salespeople listening out there, Ethan said it perfectly. That's it. I think our psyches are changing, our psychological footprint, because it's something to change. How I look at it is people don't like change, and change is hard. But that's the thing of the human behavior and what we are. We're a habitual animal. Human beings are habitual. So they don't like change or being pushed or being told. They like to experience it themselves, make their own mistakes, and then go that route. And I think right now, since a lot of the industries, world, are all going virtual, it was a little challenging because everybody feel, okay, you got to go virtual, you got to go video, you got to put marketing content out there, you got to go on LinkedIn, you got to go on social media, put yourself out there. And everybody's like, well, no, I am okay, and I'm going to wait till things go back to normal, and things will be okay. But again, we're moving forward. The world, time, everything's going forward. We can't wait. We're not going to go back to the future. As I said, this is the whole thing. It's like we can't go back and go to history and then go back to the future and then back. These are things that people need to understand. Is that we're moving forward, and you have to move forward with it. Either sometimes jump on the wagon, or you just be left behind. And don't get. I'm always highly motivated to my team, my staff, my global staff, my family. Is just give it a shot. Listen, give it a shot and try. And we're all here to support each other. If it doesn't work out, it's fine, but there's no criticism. We love, we enjoy. And the best thing is being able to laugh with each other when you make a mistake or try something new. Is like, I did the same thing. And these are the way we connect, right? We humanize, we connect by making little mistakes and being our normal self on the camera. And something happens in background and things like this. But thank you, Ethan. That was really good. You really nailed it. And but there's one thing I want to get into after this. Is I geeked out. I watched some of your videos, some of your keynote speeches, and some of your things. One thing that you said was relationships are the whole point of what we are doing, right? And you led with your success is enabled with, through, and for the other people. That was very powerful. Can you explain to the people listening and watching, what that means and how you got there with that phrase and statement?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a belief statement as much as it is anything else. I think so much. I feel like we're in a really exciting and interesting time, because it's always been true that we win through trust, rapport, relationship. And you can read sales books from a century ago, and they'll say the same thing. But it's become businesses can sometimes become a bit of a blood sport or something. And it turns out to be all about the numbers, right? And we do need to hit our numbers. We do need to run a profitable business. If we're going to have the privilege of serving customers again tomorrow, we need to structure our model to be profitable, right? Like that is a necessary component, but there's so much focus on the ends. The ends are revenue, the ends are profits, etc. But when you think about it, those are all outcomes. They're lagging indicators of healthy, positive upstream behavior. At the headwaters is caring about other people in a basic sense. It doesn't mean that you have to go like crazy way over the top. It just means that you need to approach your work from a position of service and value where you're not just looking to close the next transaction to just hit the number, but instead you're looking to serve the right people in the right way. I mean, there is so much competition. The barriers to entry are lower than ever. Pretty much every single business on earth is commodified. And if it has not yet been commodified, it's in process of being commodified. And so we cannot treat people transactionally. It's a disservice to ourselves as fellow human beings and social creatures. We are better than that. We can have so much more joy and satisfaction in our work. We can be proud of ourselves at the end of the day. We can do that, right? And so the interesting paradox is the less you focus on the transaction, the more you enable it. The more you focus on the other person, the more you support the revenue results. The more you focus on being of service and value as opposed to on how big a deal can I close in the next 30 days, the more likely you are to close the biggest deal of your life in the next 30 days. And so what I'm trying to do, and the other thing that's baked in there is this, we are a very individualistic society in the United States, and that's good and bad. It is healthy and unhealthy. It depends on how you treat it. And so part of that, all of our success is enabled with, through, and for other people, is this acknowledgement, even for the hardcore type A people, even for the hardcore entrepreneur who truly built something from nothing. I'm taking nothing away from that person. The room that I was in when I delivered that initially was primarily a room of entrepreneurs, a room of people that have built organizations, in some cases, organizations generating hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue, not global international companies, but, legit wonderful businesses, healthily employing lots of people and serving hundreds and thousands of customers to the benefit of, or to the outcome of hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. My acknowledgement there was, even for those of you who, a lot of people would look at it from the outside, or you might even tell yourself the story that I did this myself. True, not true. All of our success, our true success, is enabled with, through, and for other people. So when we work when we look to work with, through, and for other people, we will be much, much more successful. We will go farther. We will go faster. We'll have more fun doing it. We are a social species that is intended to be in direct relationship with one another. And when we can acknowledge that and approach our work that way, we're going to find it's a lot easier than it was, when we maybe weren't so conscious or intentional about that.
Yeah, you're right there. It's an emotional thing, connecting, and selling, especially sales or even any environment you're in, friends, family, and then go out to the workplace. The way you excel and move, and as Simon Sinek has wrote the infinite mindset, it's an infinite game. It's not a finite game. The finite game is there's no emotion, no connection. You just want the sale, have a nice day, keep going. The infinite game is you build the foundation. You build the caring, understanding who they are, who you're trying to, whoever your customer, whoever you're trying to build a bond with. The relationship is there. You have to build the foundation, and it doesn't happen overnight. You can't just call somebody and get those $1 million orders overnight. You just can't have a best friend off the street tomorrow. You need to build the trust. The trust comes with time and putting the time and effort. If it takes 5 minutes a day, 1 minute a day, 1 hour a week, who knows the time it takes, the effort to put that. It does take time. And that's really the number one thing of where I really like how you said the relationship with the whole point. I travel the world. My business is relationship based. No matter what, it's all sales relationship, but I travel the world, especially in Asia, for 20 years, been traveling to factories, different countries. And I love meeting with all the people, different cultures, diversities, everything, whatever happened. And, I've gone through from India, from the streets of India with all the cows and things around, and a lot of fun, and the food and the culture. And I really took that in. I realized that there's much more. Sometimes myself from Southern California, there's a bubble down here, right? In every state, there's a little bubble. And getting out that bubble is there's other people out there. There's other people just as smart or even smarter. They all have feelings. They all want to connect, and they're all might be in the same business you are or what it is, and learn from them, connect with them. And comes back to connecting is the network. You're only, unless you just come invent something, but unless you are that 1 out of 1 billion person that can create something, doesn't need a network, you need a network of people to get it out. And just like you said with the book, you teamed up with Wiley that had a network to get your book to the right place in the right people's hands, and how I landed into it at LAX, because it's the network around you. It's not yourself. And that's really what I hope people can take about this, is how we connect and build a relationship and network. So when I want to call someone, I call Ethan, hey, I need you to come on. I have something to discuss with you about virtual, or so I want you to speak to my staff for 5 minutes. Can you speak to them and give them some more motivation? These are types of things like, okay, no, Rob, no problem. Awesome. I'll do it. Just let me know when I'll be there. I'll log on. And, these are the things of network that we can help each other, and favors are done and relationships are made. And it's not just business, it's friendships.
Yeah. And I don't want anyone operating out of fear. Just a second.
Yeah.
I don't want anyone operating out of fear. Like I don't like that myself, but this is a serious caution. If you do not lean into what is uniquely you from a human perspective, if you do not lean into the relationships that you have or could have by treating people with respect and curiosity, and some of the really wonderful things you just expressed there, Rob, if we don't do this, then we will be roboticized. I talk with a lot of salespeople that are essentially threatened with disintermediation via like web apps and tools and automations and things, right? Like, let's take the middle person out, because frankly, anywhere a human is involved, there is expense. And so, if we are in this race to the bottom where it's all about price and transaction, and it's not about humans and relationship, frankly, you as a salesperson are simply an expense. Yeah. And so for anyone listening, in a lot of cases, I feel like I'm probably preaching to the choir. If you're listening to a show like this, you're investing in yourself and you're probably doing business the right way, but I'll say it anyway. If you're not leaning into what is uniquely you, what is wonderful about the human experience and human relationships, and and making that part of the value that you provide on behalf of your organization, no matter how big or small it is, then you are competing against what is a race to the bottom in terms of cost and value delivery. It's just, I just want this thing. And I just want this thing done. I just want this problem solved. And I want to pay the least amount possible. And I don't care about really the human aspect of it, because frankly, you're not adding enough value for me to recognize that you matter in this process. Then you will be cut out of the process. And my vision is that is not a world I want to live and work in. I like working with people. I don't want to stand in line 6 deep at the grocery store when there's no one waiting at self-serve, but I will stand in line 2 deep at the grocery store if there's no one in line for self-serve, because I like the experience better. And I like the fact that that man or woman is employed and working and smiling and, all these things, and is potentially on a growth path to become a manager and to learn more and to be challenged more. I like people. I like engaging with people. I like people in the process, but the point at which they're not adding value for who they are. If I guess I'll stay at the grocery store. If the grocery store person is not looking me in the eye, if the grocery store person doesn't make a little bit of small talk about maybe something I'm buying or something that's going on, if they don't thank me or smile at me or something, if you're not adding value in that role as a human, then we might as well all be in the self-checkout line. But I don't think that that's the world that all of us wants to live in all the time. Sometimes the self-checkout line is the right thing. Sometimes it's not. I think most of us enjoy connecting and communicating with other people because it's deeply baked in the human experience. And so again, you are in the process right now as a salesperson, let's say, or a service provider somewhere in the organization. If you're in a customer facing role, you need to make that customer feel like they matter, and they need to know that you're adding value and benefit to that process and the experience, or else you will be automated at some point.
Yeah, just set up the top. You just have to make them think that you care. You care about them. You care about their job. You care about their success, and their success is your success. So that's how it comes together, and that's how I tell, I talk to my team, talk to staff, even my kids. It's like, we have to care about each other. Everybody has their own thoughts. Everybody has different backgrounds, the way they got to work that day, something happened. But at the end of the day, just asking somebody, hey, how are you? How was your day? Don't,
actually listen and care.
Yeah. How are you? How's everything? How's the, what's going on? And asking them about themselves instead of trying to sell a product or trying to push something in their face. Ask them, have them open up, and then have a discussion. And my biggest success of transactions or building relationships is usually 80% having a discussion personal, then it goes 20% business. Once you get to that point, because everybody cares, because you care, and they say, okay, I got this, we'll take care of this, this business, and that 20%, 30% is all about the business. It depends on case to case, what situation you're, but most of the time, when you have transactional business, you have clients, you serve some daily basis, especially for us in supply chain or manufacturing. So there's things happening every day. There's requirements, things coming in. So you're talking to that same person every day. That person's like, hey, what's going on? How everything is going? You caring and say, hey, I need this from you. Can you give me the pricing? I need it yesterday. We have a line down. Oh, no problem. I got it. I know what it is. And just to understand the position people are in and having that open discussion builds such great relations and will bring for success. That's it. It's humans, the human connection.
Yeah. And we need to look for those opportunities. And I guess as a practical challenge for folks, you're clicking send multiple times. I don't know what day you're listening to this. I don't know what time of day it is where you're listening to this right now. And it's going to happen over a wide variety of days and a wide variety of times for the next several months or years. But you will click send over in the next 24 hours, or you've already done it in the past 24 hours, many, many times. And so when you think about what's in those messages, is there an opportunity to communicate more clearly, to make more human connection, to have someone feel like they know you before they meet you, or to be reminded of what it's like to work with you? Or do you want to increase the likelihood that you get someone to yes? Because we are couple things. We are a bit more persuasive with our whole selves than we are through typed out text. In addition, there's a sense of obligation or reciprocity that's in here. Again, this is a gift of your time and your attention. I'll just set up a scenario. Rob, you could send me, let's just say you're a potential customer, haven't committed yet. You reach out to me with a question by email. I could take 15 minutes researching and typing up a thoughtful response to your question, or I could spend 3 minutes just doing a minute of research and sending a 1.5-minute video, right? You're going to have no idea that it took me 15 minutes to write that email the right way, but there's no confusing the fact that I spent 90 seconds explaining that to you. I'll probably explain it better than I could in typing it out. And the most important thing is you are going to feel as the recipient of my response, like, I see you, I hear you, I appreciate you, I understand you. There's research, I think it's in the 2nd or the 3rd chapter, that when we read blocks of text, especially from people we don't know or don't know well, our brain doesn't even assign it to a human writer. We are dehumanizing ourselves sometimes when we rely on this. And so we need to look for those opportunities in our days and in our weeks to be more personal and human. And next time you click send, think, would I save time by just talking instead of typing? Would I explain it more clearly and reduce some of the back and forth? Does this message potentially have an emotional charge that will really benefit from me saying it, whether it's positive and excited and encouraging, or whether it's one of concern, or maybe you need to light a fire under an employee who's underperforming, let's say, right? Or someone is a customer, someone else has missed a deadline. And you kind of need to like express it like, no, I really mean it. Like, this is not acceptable. We need to move forward. It needs to happen quickly. That looks a lot different on my face than it does in plain black text on a plain white screen. And your emoticon is not, or your emoji is not going to solve that problem. It's not going to close that gap. So the challenge is, the next time you click send, would this be better if I said it in person? And in a lot of cases, the answer is going to be yes.
Oh, I 100% agree. I mean, I'll give you a quick little example. Right now I was refinance, but I'm refinancing my home.
Awesome.
And I went through one of my friends, Loan Depot. My friend's SV Loan Depot is helping me out with that. And he's going through the process, and they use the software, I don't know, the mortgage software out there. And they give me analytics, okay, 15, 20, 30, whatever, here's my rate. And then I saw all the spread out. And then he put a video of a 2.5-minute video explaining me in this, the whole, the matrix, the whole process, the graph, what each thing meant. And it was, I mean, maybe I'm under, I love it. For me, I'm like, oh, this is it. We have to, I implement this as my office. Quotations should have a video message with them to explain it. But that experience, because that took him maybe 3 minutes to make that video, put that thing together. I could have probably been on the phone with him for 15, 20 minutes trying to go over that back and forth, or keep going back and forth. But he answered all the questions that were my Q&A. He did it virtually, and he did it. It's a light. It wasn't scripted. He was talking to me. This is what's going on. I see this number. Here's this number here. This is what we can do. What do you think? Do you want to go this way, that way? And I'm like, I chose plan A. Let's do it. Done. There was no more selling. There was no more trying to, because he articulated everything that was my concern. He knew what my concerns were. He didn't want to text it and write it in an email, and he didn't want to talk on the phone because he says everybody's busy these days. What you put it in the phone, and it came across to me. I loved it. I'm not going to use it for myself now, trying to implement it with my team, but I thought that was really well done, and I think it. For 90% of people, it does work. There are some people who just not, but I think it's not for everybody. Not everything's for everybody. But that video of the human connection, feeling, caring comes across. You hit all the points: nonverbal, the cues, and the intent. The intent is not to take anything from you. The intent is to help serve you.
It's trusted advisor. Yeah. And that comes through too. I mean, your ability, and again, I just want people to hear that again, casual conversational. This wasn't a script, although he's probably sent this type of video several times before for different people in different scenarios. And so you're not reinventing the wheel every time. Some of your videos that you wind up incorporating as part of the way you're communicating with customers or potential customers are 80% the same over and over with some nuances, perhaps. You're going to get much, much better at those very, very quickly. They're not going to be hard to do, but you're not operating from a script. You're simply talking to people. What would I say if we could get through all the trouble and challenge of getting together on a Zoom call or over the phone or whatever. Synchronous communication is challenging, especially for you working halfway around the world in time zones. Am I going to take this call at 10:30 at night? These kinds of things, because that's when it's convenient for my customer. This is asynchronous. So you can record these when it's convenient for you, send it to one or more people whenever you want. Each person gets to open it up and experience you in person, get to know you, hear the value, get the explanation, get the thanks or the congratulations, whatever the case may be, when it's convenient for them. And in this way, it's got this extra layer of convenience. There's so many benefits to making this part of what you do. Not all of what you do, but just part of what you do.
Exactly. So, we nailed that one down. It's like, as I said, the video is there. One thing before we get to the end, time's flying all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Some questions I have for you is like, what are your thoughts, for Rehumanize? You have Rehumanize Your Business, but what do you think our trajectory? I think in the last 8 months, we've advanced 2 to 5, 3 years already, just because of digital, we had no choice because of the pandemic. But where do you think in the next year or 2 years we're going, and how critical is it be to people in this, especially in the customer facing forward, the customer experience position, to get virtual and to put themselves on camera? What do you think? Is it very important, or is it they can still get away with being successful without doing it?
Obviously you can, your numbers every month will tell you if you can get it. Like, what are we trying to do here? Are we trying to get away with it, or are we trying to be better tomorrow than we are today? Right. And I would say, if you are on the side for your own career not even for the organization, for yourself, listen to this for yourself. If you want to be better tomorrow than you are today, then you'll start working on skills that will serve you better tomorrow and a decade from now than you are today. And I personally feel that everyone is capable of doing this if they want to. And your videos in the beginning are not going to be amazing. They're not going to be great. You're not going to be comfortable. They're going to be a little bit awkward, but you're going to send them anyway. And if you want to, you can start in lower threat environments. You can send to family members or friend or coworkers, people you know and who know you, instead of reaching out to prospects or people that have inquired on your website or whatever the case may be. Start in a lower threat environment. When you get comfortable, when you get to the other side of this other side of the discomfort, where you're kind of in your own head and you're overjudging yourself and you're overthinking it, and frankly, that is what you're doing. You're overthinking it and overjudging yourself. When you can get out of your own head and just start being more comfortable, which takes a little bit of practice, it is insanely liberating. And the skills that because you get to be yourself again. You're not restricted in the ways that you are in these other channels, and you don't have to act as if. You get to be yourself and win on who you are. And frankly, you've already been doing that in some other channels. And the other thing I'll say is, when you get comfortable doing this, the skills you will develop are highly transferable to a number of other situations. You're going to be better in-person sales calls. You're going to be better on your Zoom calls. You're going to be better should you get the privilege or the challenge or the opportunity to take a stage or even run a team meeting. The skills you develop in getting comfortable in your own skin on camera in a way that you can be judged. And we're judged all the time everywhere. So again, you're not hiding from anyone by not doing this style of video. If you pursue this, you will be ahead of the curve, because this will become a normal thing. It may take longer than I hope. It already has taken longer than I hoped and expected, frankly. When I joined the company, one of my fears was that Google or MailChimp or someone else would come offer this and plow us under, like much bigger companies at the time, video and email and et cetera. It hasn't happened. And so I encourage people to get ahead of this curve. It is not too late to get going. You will be considered an early adopter. I know people that have been recruited and hired out of their companies because this was part of how they were achieving success. Yep. And so I would offer them that as a caution to leaders and managers. Build into your people, believe into your people, make them better tomorrow than they are today, and encourage them and support them in pursuing, whether it's getting comfortable in video or something else. This is what people need and want from their employment engagements, especially in competitive markets. And so this will be a benefit to anyone who goes down this road today.
Yeah. Lead by example. That's how I say it. Lead by, if I lead for my team, I lead by it. I put myself out there. I'm learning as they go. Wish they would be side by side, arm in arm. We're learning together. We're going through this together. And that's the number one thing that I think as a leader or any organization, wherever you are, is if you want something done, you have to figure it out yourself as well. You just can't tell your people to do this and put themselves out there without you getting out there yourself and doing it. And technology is changing. The whole cell phone, our days are 30-second, 15-second, 1-minute clips now. That psyche has been trained for that. That whole thing is, we love engaging. We love seeing it. Just like we said about the email. I mean, to wrap this up, if someone would rather look at a 30-second clip or 1-minute clip than read a 2-paragraph email. It just, they connect with it much easier. They're like, oh, it's just another video. I watch them all the day on my social media feed or on the Twitter or on this, it's way more engaging. And that's the thing is, your book, everything you're doing, everything BombBomb is doing is really pushing that, building that pathway. And you say there's a lot of other competition out there, but nobody has really done exactly what you're doing or trying to get it into this space as they will. They're all going to come. But
and we've been at it longer than anyone too. Been doing this for a decade. I've been here 9 years full time, and I'm not even the first employee.
It's amazing, and I really appreciate what you're doing. Is there going to be a volume 2 of the Rehumanize Your Book?
Well, yeah, I guess you heard it here first. I am actually working on, with Steve, a second book. It probably won't come as quickly, so it's going to be months off. But absolutely, there is, and it's going to pick up a bit where that will still be kind of like the who, what, why, when, how kind of primer. And this other one will actually be a little bit broader. It's going to be about building relationships through video, including video calls, including presentations and sales demos. It's like, when we are getting on camera, what can we do to make sure that we're not just saying things at people, but actually connecting with other human beings when we can't be there in person. So I'm excited about it. I'm a little bit scared of it. But as I said, fun, interesting, challenging. It's got all those qualities. So I'm going to be going head down and stop having conversations like these for a few months.
Yeah, I know. Well, hopefully you have a little bit about I don't know if you would, a little about the pandemic and how it's been accelerated, and the communication and moving forward in the virtual world has been accelerated by the pandemic. We would have never been here. That pandemic would have never globally hit us, So we're here today. And any last words or messages or any quotes you have? Anything you want to share with the people out there today?
I guess because you asked for words or quotes, I'll offer a mantra that Steve and I developed with our team here is be of value and abundance will follow. It's consistent with something we talked about earlier in the conversation, which is when you stop focusing on the outcome and instead focus on doing the process the right way and for the right reasons and for the right people. And when you come with sincerity, when you come with a spirit of service, the outcomes honestly so often will take care of themselves, and because people can feel it. And so be of value and abundance will follow. And I guess the other thing I would say is thank you so much, Rob. I really, really appreciate it. I really appreciate anytime someone reaches out the way that you did, just because it lets me know that I'm not alone, that these ideas and philosophies and practices do have meaning and value for people out there, that we are doing this together, that we are now you and I, Rob, are modeling this behavior together and encouraging people together. And again, I won't restate why I think this matters at a very high and deep level. But I appreciate you so much for inviting me into this conversation, like in a very immediate and in explicit way, but even more broadly in a more philosophical way. I appreciate being in this conversation with you.
No, thank you very much, Steve. Thank you for everything. Thank you for what you're doing for the world, for the people, and as well as BombBomb and Steve and yourself. As I always leave it too, my mantra is be smart, be thoughtful, be generous. Thanks again, Ethan. I will be talking to you soon.